But getting right into the last region, I think it's the East region.
Yep.
Michigan number 1 seed versus Texas Southern. Michigan only wins by 16. Very balanced Michigan attack. They kind of let Texas Southern stick around, but it never really felt like it was in danger. Honestly, in a weird way, the most impressive player in this game was a guy from Texas Southern. It was Michael Weathers, who had 24 points, which, I mean, I got to give him credit against a team that defends like Michigan. That's kind of hard to do. And a fun fact that I wanted to impart upon the audience from what I learned in the first 4 game that Texas Southern played. This is Michael Weathers' 3rd school. He played previously at the University of Miami, Ohio, and Oklahoma State. But again, even though it was only a 16-point game, I really felt like Michigan controlled it most of the way, and it wasn't really in any danger, despite it not being the biggest blowout you've ever seen. LSU St. Bonaventure, the 8-9 matchup. I picked St. Bonaventure, and I still think St. Bonaventure might be the better team, but LSU they have Cam Thomas, and that's about the difference in this game. He had 27 points. Trendon Watford and Darius Days each had a double-double for LSU. And really, I think LSU was just there. They were peaking at the right time. They were playing really hot after going to the SEC title game. I should have probably seen that coming, but I'll let you add whatever you want to that game.
Nah, simple games. Here's me in this bracket. I'm looking at the East. Like, the next game, blowout. Florida State, easy win. Like, there's only 2 games in the round of 64. Like, this is the most predictable bracket.
You'd probably have to say that, yeah.
Like, the
one little pod we'll get to definitely a little interesting, but this one's been chalk more so than most of the others. That game you were referring to, number 5 Colorado versus number 12 Georgetown. This is the game that I think I said it on. I didn't buy into Georgetown after they won those 4 straight games in the Big East tournament. They only had won 9 games before that all season, and I think that was pretty indicative. I feel, in my mind, they were a departed case from, after further review, this was after the podcast, our last podcast. They're definitely a different case than Oregon State. Oregon State still won, what was it, like 16 or 17 games in their season. They just lost several games, but if you're a team that's only winning 9 games in the regular season, you hadn't won more than back-to-back games all season, I just have a hard time trusting you. And I think that showed out here. Colorado obviously got hot. They went 16-25 rather from 3. But Georgetown just looked disinterested in guarding for the most part most of the game. And that's why Colorado, a team that does not score a ton of points, almost put up 100 on them.
Yeah.
Moving forward,
Florida
State, UNC Greensboro. By contrast, since these 2 teams were going to play each other, Colorado made 16 threes. Florida State made none.
Oh, wow.
In this game against UNC Greensboro, but that didn't matter. Their length, it looked like, bothered Greensboro at times. The one big takeaway I'm going to say is Greensboro's Isaiah Miller can really play ball. He had a really nice highlight at one point where he blocked a shot on one end and then made a really nice play in the lane on the other. But this was a relatively comfortable 10-point win for the Seminoles. BYU UCLA, the 6 versus 11. Obviously UCLA playing their way in against Michigan State. And I think I picked against it, but I saw it coming a mile away. I think it's now 9 of 10 years a team from the first 4 has advanced past the first round. So one team typically uses that as a springboard and wins their first round game. This year it was UCLA. I got to give the shout out to Johnny Juzang.
27 points.
27 points in this game. He also had 23 against Michigan State the other night, and then in their second round game, which we'll talk about in a bit, he goes for 17. This dude's been as hot as just about anybody in this entire tournament, and big reason why UCLA really took care of business. They were way more efficient.
Only three turnovers in the whole game.
They answered every BYU surge. BYU cut it from 14 down to 4 at one point. UCLA got it back up to, I think, 11, and then BYU surged back to within 7 and looked like they might cut it down to, I think it was 5, and then UCLA gets a good stop, and they held that the rest of the way for the W. The next game is a one that hurts my heart because you know that I put a little effort into this, and my math told me, watch out for Abilene Christian. And I said, what the fuck are you smoking? Texas just won the Big 12. Like, why? And I should have listened to the math, essentially. But get this. This is perhaps my favorite part of all of it. We'll share the tweet that has some of these stats on the screen, but we'll also read them out loud. Abilene Christian, in their upset of Texas, 53-52, they shot under 30% from the field. They made just 3 3-pointers and shot 16.7%. Had no blocked shots to Texas's 9, had 6 fewer assists than Texas, and at one point trailed by 9 points. And in a game where the winning team only scored 53 and 9 points seems like a pretty considerable mountain. But here's the deal that you couldn't look past. They created absolute chaos.
Yeah.
They forced, I didn't write down the exact number. I know it was in 22. The 20s. 23 Texas turnovers. Really just made the Longhorns uncomfortable. They were a team that it's very different than Loyola Chicago, but in the same sort of way that they try to impart their effort on defense into you and really make you play their game. They were very successful against Texas in that fact, and there's a reason they pulled off the upset. I believe this was another one. This was one of the last games on Saturday, and with their win, 4 teams seeded 13 or higher reached the round of 32 for the first time in NCAA tournament history. Fun little tidbit. And this is, I do think I have the last little sequence here where they have Joe Pleasant. This is what I loved, right? It was very similar to the Ohio game earlier in the day. Jason Preston only shoots about 60% from the line, and he was sent to the line for 2 free throws late in the game. And I look at my dad and I say, yeah, but he's 100% in the clutch. And he knocks down 2 free throws. Same thing with Joe Pleasant, shoots about 60% from the line, and he's going to the line down 1. Obviously, this highlight is the second free throw. Down 1 with 1 second on the clock. And I look at my dad and I'm like, I bet this guy's 100% in the clutch too. Knocks down the first one, and then I'll let the call do it from there.
No timeouts for Texas. Abilene Christian with the lead. Texas has got to go the distance.
Down both of them.
Brock Cunningham's going to take it out from the baseline. The baseball court pass. Believe the unbelievable. Abilene Christian with the...
I hated that one, guy.
This is another one. Again, Lisa comes up again. Great call on that one.
Yep.
It's so that was the biggest chaos again. Wish I would have trusted the math. Oh well. Number 7 UConn and number 10 Maryland. Maryland finished the first half on a 15-3 run and really never let UConn back in the game again. They never got back within 5. And you probably have the exact numbers, but UConn shot like absolutely freaking terrible from the field.
Yeah, UConn shot 32%.
Yeah.
7 for 23 on 3-pointers.
It wasn't good.
Free throws, they only made 5 of 12.
That's a whole lot of bad shooting means you're probably not going to win the game unless you're Abilene Christian.
Yeah, literally.
So that was just kind of an ugly game. I think both of us took UConn. Maybe you didn't, but I know I did, because I thought James Bouknight was going to be enough for UConn, and he definitely was not. That's on me. Oh, I never played this highlight for Johnny Juzang. I'm so sorry. We're not going to go back to it for the sake of time. Second round in this region was pretty stock standard. Again, a lot of chalk, except for that one little pod that had both UCLA and Abilene Christian, but UCLA, the higher seeded team, and definitely not looking like an 11 seed at this point. They moved on. That was me getting ahead of myself. First game was Michigan LSU, easily the best game of this region's second day. Michigan answered some of the questions that we had about them without Isaiah Livers. They were really tested in this game because LSU had Cam Thomas go off for another 30 points, and Javonte Smart had 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. And they survived that. Unlike Ohio State, unlike Florida against ORU, they withstood 2 big outbursts from good players. They answered with some of their not so heralded players stepping up. We hear a lot about Hunter Dickinson, the very good young big man. We hear a lot about Isaiah Livers. Franz Wagner is another name that gets brought up a lot. But Eli Brooks had 21 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. And shout out to Sean D. Brown off the bench. He had a big game against Ohio State several weeks ago when I shouted out Michigan. He had 21 to go along with Brooks today, and he was a big reason why they won. I'll play one highlight from this game that I very much enjoyed, and maybe I enjoy it because of the caption was pretty good too. Franz will pump you up. That's I believe it's Saturday Night Live skit reference from like the 90s, right? Very good. This was late in the game. LSU's kind of trying to press and trap, and Michigan pulls off one of the more efficient press breaks I've ever seen. This is probably more to LSU's discredit than Michigan's credit, but I just enjoyed this.
And remember, Watford is out there with 4 fouls for LSU. They break the press. Wagner the other way! Franz will pump you up! Michigan by 10!
To Dickinson in the middle of the floor so easily.
They let it get to Dickinson middle of the floor, and he just fires a 50-foot outlet pass to Franz Wagner for the dunk. Pretty easy there. Michigan takes care of business. Florida State, Colorado. This was another one of those games similar to, I can't think of what the game was. That was a big rock fight that we talked about already, but it was like 24-20 at half. Like, it was super low scoring. And then FSU just kind of pulled away in the second half. Colorado shot like shit and turned the ball over a ton. And if Denver has told you one thing all day today, it's that won't win you many games. Next game was that UCLA Abilene Christian. We kind of already talked about it. Abilene Christian has another bad shooting night. They shoot 30% again. Very similar to the UT game, like in terms of the game that Abilene Christian was able to play and played on the offensive end looked similar to the UT game, but the difference was UCLA took care of the ball. They only had 8 turnovers, which is a far cry from the 23 or whatever Texas had. Just a solid game by the Bruins, and they're back in the Sweet 16 and repping the Pac-12 again. And the last game of this little analysis that we've now gone on for about 2 hours with. Been a lot of fun. Thank you for sticking with. Hey, a lot of games, obviously. A lot of games to talk about. Number 2, Alabama. Number 10, Maryland. What it came down to was Alabama got super, super hot from 3 as a team. They shot 16 of 33 from behind the line. They had Jaden Shackelford get 21 points. John Petty Jr. had 20. Javon Quinterly off the bench had 14 points and 11 assists. And that counteracted Aaron Wiggins, for Maryland having 27 points and 6 rebounds. The biggest thing for me in this game, and then I'll leave it to you, because I'm about out of energy after all of this. Alabama's best player, I believe he was the SEC Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year, Herb Jones. He only plays 17 minutes in this game because of foul trouble. only 6 points and 6 rebounds. Alabama still wins by 20 and still gets up to 96 points. That's without their best player doing his thing. Alabama's looking real good right now.
Yeah. One of my coworkers, so I have several coworkers, but one of them came in on Monday, and his bracket was in the top like 12,000 on ESPN.
That's pretty good.
Like, yeah, he's stupid, and he has Bama winning it. Like, he's doing pretty hot for himself.